Welcome to the Alaska Report. I'm Senator Mark Begich. This is a show designed to inform you about the issues, programs, and people important to Alaska. Today I'm pleased to have with me as my guests our latest class of interns from our office in Washington, D.C. This incredible group of young Alaskans has been working in my D.C. office for the past several months. I'd like to welcome Rachel Kaplan, Mike Murali, Stef Claus, and Mathew Mund. Thanks for being here, and we'll jump into a bit of a round of questions in just a second here, but I'd like you each to start with a brief description of where you're from and a little bit of your background. I'll start with you, Rachel, if you'd like, just a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Well, my name is Rachel, and I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska, and graduated from West Valley High School last spring.
Very good. Mike?
Yeah, I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. I graduated from Service High School there, and recently in May I graduated from Middlebury College.
Very good.
Vermont.
Steph?
Yeah, I grew up in Craig, Alaska, down in southeast by Ketchikan, and just this past May I graduated from Georgetown University.
Fantastic. And Mathew?
I was born in a small town of North Pole near Fairbanks. I spent all my life in Fairbanks, graduated from the same high school, West Valley in Fairbanks, and then I attended undergrad at Dickinson State University in North Dakota, and I'm currently a grad student at American University.
A small town, but an important town.
Yes.
As we saved Santa Claus
Yes,
this year,
exactly.
right? Our office staff, along with our other delegation staff, got busy to make sure the postman would continue to send those kids letters to North Pole.
Very exciting.
So maybe a small town from Alaska's perspective, but I think they told me 800,000 letters go to North Pole.
I used to work on those letters when I was in high school and middle
very
school
good.
and stuff.
So you stand.
Yeah, you would find a form letter and send back to the kids, and it was really interesting to hear about kids from all over the country.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, there we go. Now we have a little history about Alaska and the North Pole.
Yeah.
Thanks for being an elf in Santa Claus's workshop.
Thank you.
Let me, if I can, I'll just kind of go around a little bit and talk to each one of you about your experience here and maybe kind of what you've been working on. I'm going to start with you, Steph, because I know specifically because I get your emails every morning on one of your projects. But what's kind of the role you've had here and what have you been working on?
Yeah, I've been working a lot with the Deputy Press Secretary here in D.C., Max Crows. Every morning I look at all the different news sources from all across the state to see what people are saying about you, Senator, and what just the major...
You have to really do that? And you send me both the good and the bad, right?
The good and the bad. We see absolutely
right.
everything.
All right.
Just to kind of keep staff abreast about the major developments in the state.
Great.
I've also...
Let me ask Mike, what's kind of your big challenge and project that you're working on?
Well, I mostly worked on health care reform issues, so...
A small little item.
Yeah, it's not that big right now.
Yeah.
And that's been very interesting, especially with the ongoing debate right now. And so I've been writing letters to constituents. I've been researching the bills.
And now you have the new bill, the
Yeah.
2074-page bill
That's
that you'll
right.
be busy, I'm sure, looking at, and you're probably looking forward to the holiday season quickly coming upon us. Take a little break.
It's a little bit of a break, but no, it's really exciting, and I'm really glad to be working on it.
Very good. Rachel, what's your kind
see.
of task and projects? I know you work with Diane DeSanto and,
Right.
and Bruce and others, but what kind of the areas that you focus on?
A lot of social service issues, so education a lot recently, which has been really interesting. And then I've worked a lot on constituent letters in areas, Veterans Affairs and other areas, which has been really interesting, kind of opposite side of the spectrum.
You're right, and we just had a pretty important piece of legislation pass on veterans' health care and making sure they have the resources for their dependents to take care of them. So I'm sure you got a few letters that had come in on that, or emails. It's funny when we say letters in our office, we have the kind of the broader sense. It's not only letters, it's emails and all other correspondence. Because I bet you when you look at our system, the bulk of what we see is emails. Sometimes they're written very long, because I've seen some of those, and sometimes very short. Now tell me, Mathew, what's your projects, or what are you working on?
I've had the pleasure to work with Michael Johnson. He's one of course, Senator Begich's legislative assistants, working on energy, natural resources, climate change, those policies, working with the some different issues with the Alaska natural gas pipeline, and that's really been my focus during the time.
Now, have you all worked the front phones?
Yes.
So, and for those that are watching, what the front phones are all about is it's when you call the office here in D.C., there's some voice on the other end who's trying to take your question or your concern or trying to direct you to the right person to talk to. And depending on the issue, you might get a lot of calls or very few. But I'm guessing the last week or so, especially because of healthcare, the call volume has increased fairly significantly. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yes.
And all ranges of comments, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And probably from not only from Alaska. I think a lot of people think we just get calls from Alaska, but my reports that I see on a regular basis, we get them from all over the country. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Tell me, you know, for each one of you, and Rachel, I'll ask you first. What was your, you know, you came to Washington D.C. to work as an intern. What was your biggest surprise? Besides the space you all have to work in that is no bigger than the space you're sitting in right now. That includes the desk too. What was the one thing that was kind of a surprise? And I'll ask each one of you the same question.
I think I was surprised at how much I actually get to work with the different issues that are going on currently. I was expecting a lot more like grabbing people coffee or, you know, something like that. But I was really pleasantly surprised how much we've gotten to be involved in the office.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's one thing we've tried to do with our interns in each session is to make sure they're fully engaged and not just, as the impression you had, just go get coffee or file this paper somewhere. So that's good.
Well, I was actually very pleasantly surprised at how friendly and supportive all the staff were at
That's
your office.
today.
Yeah.
They were on good behavior.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, like Rachel said, that you know, I was able to work pretty closely on a lot of major issues, which I didn't really expect to be doing.
Very good.
Yeah.
Steph?
I'm just going to say what he said.
Is it similar to all of you that just being able to work on issues rather than just kind of sitting in a corner and filing stuff is kind of a surprise for all of you to be able to do?
That's definitely the case. And I've also really been surprised. I've heard a lot of stories from other offices about a lot of infighting, and I think that the Begich staff is really supportive and really works together to get issues taken care of, and it's really friendly.
We figure we have to work
fabulous.
together with you all because you control the hallway of one of the main segments of the office. If I recall going through there many times, you kind of have the block there. Was that same for you,
Shut down the
surprise?
office.
That's right.
Exactly. I've had the pleasure of also interning for Senator Dorgan from North Dakota. And what's fascinating about your office is that kind of the menial things, you know, mail coming in, organizing things, you know, sorting through emails, a lot of that time-consuming work is actually done by full-time staff in your office, which is a lot more professional, efficient way of doing it. It also allows the interns to work on a lot more bigger issues and things like that. But in you know, previous internships and things like that, and from you know, other interns I've talked to, a lot of their time is just doing kind of that organizing you know, work as things come into the office, anything from phone calls. But I mean, that's kept to a very minimal level in your office, which is wonderful. And so we actually get to feel like a staff member. So that's really great.
Now, are you, from your experience of being an intern now, and you've been on for several weeks, have you engaged with other offices in some of the work that you do? In other words, each one of you have kind of an area you're in. Are you finding that you're not just working within the office, but outside of our office environment, maybe?
I think with me, I've had the pleasure of working on making a few rationales for suggesting to co-sign different legislation, and I've had to work with other offices, whoever the you know, main senator who's proposing the legislation, with their staff, and seeing you know, where they're coming from, why they think it's a good idea, would it be good for Alaskans, those kind of ideas, and really just making sure that we're on the same page with their staff. And so, as well as working with the staff from the Congressional Research Service and different parts of the Senate. So yeah, I've had a lot of opportunities.
Very good. Steph or Mike or Rachel, any?
Great, yeah, in addition to working with other legislative staff, we've also got the pleasure of working with some of the various federal agencies, doing casework for Alaskans and various problems they may have with federal agencies, contact the Bureau of Land Management.
Let me interrupt you for a second, because a lot of people may not know what casework is, but that's when you get a call and someone has a concern or an issue that they're trying to weave through, and then you carry it to the agencies, or depending on where it is, you walk it through, try to resolve that issue, and sometimes it's communication or lack of information. What's some of the main hurdles when you deal with casework that you find with, when someone calls in, what's the first kind of process you have to go through to deal with that?
Yeah, I guess the first step is just kind of to figure out really what the problem is and kind of get the facts of the case straight. And then we contact the agency and kind of see if we can't bring it to their attention or maybe clarify a misunderstanding that they might have, or see if we can't find some kind of solution to the problem the constituent is having. It's rewarding work.
You know, it's interesting, those little things make a big difference. You know, to the person who calls, it's a big deal. And when you get it in the bigger, you know, arena here of all these issues, there's so many issues, but to that one individual, that is critical for them to resolve in some way. And so the casework is something that not only here in D.C. we do, obviously, but all our offices in Alaska are constantly doing. Mike or Rachel?
Yeah, I've actually, because I've been working on healthcare issues, I've had the pleasure of working with the Senate Finance Committee and the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, which is, as you know, where the two original Senate bills came from, as well as committees on the House side. You know, just finding out information on the bills, mostly to help respond to constituents' concerns or do research for the legislative assistant in charge of health issues, Bruce Scanling. So
when someone calls in maybe and says, you know, I've been reading the bill,
right.
you know, and they, you know, late at night they're reading the bill and they say section such and such, this is what I think it says. You then at that point attempt to answer it if you know it, or you do this additional research?
Yeah, a lot of times I pull up the bill on my computer and you know, look at the section immediately to see if what they're saying matches with what the bill is saying, or if they're just receiving misinformation, which you know, seems to have been a problem a little bit. There seems to have been a lot of misinformation circulating about the bill, but we're really looking to correct that. So,
is a lot of the misinformation that comes in, is people probably don't identify where they get the information, they just have an opinion or a thought on it, and then what you try to do is give them the information. Sometimes they agree with you or disagree, or do they end up saying, okay, I got it now?
It's actually pretty rewarding when they agree with me. When
is that fair for everybody here if someone's agreeing?
When I'm able to change someone's view, you know, so that they can actually understand what's going on. But you know, a lot of times they also disagree. And
Rachel, in the work you do you end up working with other offices? Or does Diane keep you kind of boxed in, you know?
Actually, I think some of working with other offices for me has been more on military issues.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So dealing with letters, getting letters and emails from veterans who are having a problem, and then running down the hall to the Navy liaison office or Air Force or whatever, and you know, talking to them over there, and they can kind of get you pointed in the right direction for straightening that out.
Well, one thing you should mention, you know, again, a lot of people, you know, when you work here for a while, you assume certain things, but the liaison offices, which are pretty critical for the military, and a lot of offices have, a lot of agencies have them, and the liaison offices are usually these offices, and for the, again, viewers who are watching, those are the connect that those departments or agencies have to us in Congress, and it gives the link for you to do exactly what you said, where you can call up and say, here's what I think it says, here's what it means, and then they give some feedback. Is that how you've used the liaison office to kind of give you that link?
Yeah, and just they sometimes can address a concern that we've gotten from a constituent better than, you know, they have much better information than I do in the office. So they're very clarifying and helpful.
Very good. Well, let me hold it there. We have some more questions. I'm going to ask you some fun questions of what you do on your spare time here when I give you any. But we're going to take a short break, and please stay tuned with us as I continue my conversation with a great group of young Alaskans. I'll be right back with the interns who have been working in our D.C. office for the past several months.
I'm Senator Lisa Murkowski.
And I'm Senator Mark Begich. Influenza is a serious illness, and H1N1 is a serious flu. But there are some simple things you can do every day to protect yourself.
Wash your hands often with soap and water. Cough into your sleeve or a tissue, and stay home if you're sick. We need to keep ourselves, our families, and our communities healthy.
Know what to do about the flu? Visit www.flu.gov.
Hey.
Ready to go?
Yeah, but the fire's not out.
Close enough.
Close enough? If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. I mean, the next thing you know, you've torched our whole neighborhood.
Which is why we're not going anywhere?
Exactly. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back. I'm Senator Mark Begich. On this edition of Alaska Report, I'm talking to the interns who have been working in my D.C. office for the past few months. Welcome back to Rachel Kaplan, Mike Murali, Stef Claus, and Mathew Mund. Should also mention we have our interns in the Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Juneau offices. The folks here just happen to be the ones who are in D.C. available for me to interview today. So I want to get back to some of the questions. I have some fun questions toward the end. I'll hold those. But let me ask you a little bit more about, now some of you have already you've worked in D.C. before as an intern, but tell me, you know, when I came here, you know, trying to figure out where to go from what building to what building, was that a challenge? And let me ask the first three, I won't ask you, but Rachel, was that a challenge, or was that, you know, and we spend a lot of time just on the Senate side. Rarely do we go to the House side, which is another maze in itself. But tell me what that experience was like.
It's still a little bit of a challenge sometimes. Steph and I have had some adventures recently. But
nearly lost a group of constituents forever on the House side trying to find Don Young's office.
Oh, the House, yeah, because also on the House side, some of those buildings are 4-digit floors.
Oh, no,
even though they're only, like, if it's 4 floors, it will say 4415. So it's a whole different ballgame.
And as it turns out, 2111 is not on the second floor, but on the first floor.
First floor, correct.
So,
so you had that kind of experience.
Yeah. So
and they have a whole network of train systems underneath, just like the Senate. So you have to get used to that. Like, did you have any, what was your kind of, was it easy for you? Just came in and said, oh, there's the office?
No, it was interesting because my first day, I somehow managed to find your office, which was, you know, pretty much a relief for me. But since then, the first month and a half or so was kind of difficult, you know, just trying to find my way around. Every time I had to deliver a letter, I'd get lost in Hart
building.
Yeah, get lost underneath this vast network of basement passages. So
they actually, a lot of people don't know this, but you know, my son, who's 7, is fascinated by what he calls the secret passageways, but they're really just storage and hallway and delivery room hallways, but they're very complex.
Yeah.
And underneath the Capitol, there's a whole nother array of these, and if you can get into them, you'll end up getting lost. Now, do you guys, have you done, each one of you done tours? So when you come here first, and this is just again for people to know that one of the also tasks of the interns as well as staff is to give tours of the Capitol in the area, because a lot of people come from Alaska and are very curious about, you know, how does this all work and where's what building, and so you not only have to master the knowledge of what's here, you have to then guide people through the process. What was your, I know you've done it now, because we'll say you're an old hand in the internship, but what's that experience like when you take Alaskans around?
I think it's really interesting that Alaskans kind of look at things differently from people from other parts of the state. A lot of times, what the, the building, the material it is made out of, you know, kind of what kind of artwork's in the room, as well as just kind of the actual time history of the building, which kind of differs from, I feel like a lot of other people have more architectural questions or more like who painted this, what, where.
Really?
When it's kind of interesting, Alaskans I feel like have a different interest in when you're on a tour, which you kind of have to shape differently from different things. But I had the wonderful experience when I was in high school being a tour guide in Alaska Railroad as well, so I had all those experiences to bring into doing tour guides on the hill and stuff, and it's just a matter of memorizing little facts and bringing them around, and people are just happy to be there and really glad that you're taking the time, so they're pretty easy to do. Okay.
Steph, have you done tours? I'm taking.
I have. I think the biggest challenge the first couple tours was not getting groups of constituents lost. But, since we've seemed to have mastered that part, it's been great. It's really fun. I mean, that Capitol building is a beautiful building, and historic building. And I'm still overawed every time I walk into the rotunda. It
is an amazing facility. You know, after a couple Saturdays ago, we had the vote regarding health care, and after the vote, my son was still here at the office with me, so it was, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And so we went back to the Capitol because my car was over there, and in the process, the Capitol is basically empty except security. So I took him on a little tour of the Capitol without anyone in there. When you think about, you walk through the rotunda or you walk around the chambers, and it's, quiet and it's kind of dim lights. It's a very incredible experience, to say the least. But the tours are, I know when I see constituents that come in, they're very excited to have a chance to walk around and see the grounds, the Capitol. The one thing I always warn people about is watch out for the squirrels, because they're dropping acorns on everybody. You've probably experienced that, where you're walking by and you'll hear things drop on car tops and you look up and there's a couple squirrels. I don't know if they plan it that way or what the deal is.
They're not afraid of people.
They'll
follow you around.
Yeah, they're not afraid, and you'll see people taking photos. My son was fascinated by how many at first he would see, and then of course you become immune to it, but he just saw them everywhere, and it was the most amazing thing. So, but thanks for giving those tours. Let me ask you, when you signed up for being an intern, you went through the process, and then you got selected, and then you had the experience that wasn't as what you had thought originally, but you then started doing this work. How do you see this type of experience work into what you want to do, or just your general knowledge of government? And Rachel, do you see this as a value? Do you think there's a value for other people to do this, other students?
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend the internship to anyone. I don't think that I'll be pursuing politics, but
maybe good and bad. It depends how you look at it, right?
Well, you know,
you want more of you, but maybe after seeing it, you may not want to be in the environment.
I didn't come into it, you know, thinking, oh, I'm, you know, going to be a senator in 20 years or whatever. You know, like it was just, you know, this is going to be really interesting, and it has been really interesting.
That's good.
So yeah, I mean, even just the experience, it's just such a fun office to work in, and getting to come to work every day and be involved with, you know, what you're hearing on the news is so exciting. So. And
it's not just, and that's an interesting point you made there, that even if you're not interested in politics, the experience is worthwhile for whatever else you might do in life. Is that a fair?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And it is interesting when you do turn on the news, and your comment about when you turn on the news and then you see the same people you just saw might have been in person at a committee meeting, watching them debate some issue, and there they are on national news talking about it. Or, as you know, some of the filming occurs in the Russell building, just down the hall from us upstairs. And so when you see that, you just, you know, you're part of the national news, which is an interesting piece of it. Mike, what would you say to people, and what was your kind of desire when you came here? Like, what would you want to get out of it?
Well, I graduated with a degree in political science, so I'm interested in politics to begin with. So, you know, I wanted to kind of see it from the inside, and, you know, I'm interested in going into law. And so this was just kind of me, first of all, looking to see if it was something I really wanted to do, which now I realized it is. I want to get more into politics, but it's also, you know, been a valuable experience. You know, taught me a lot about the culture of Congress. Yeah,
it's its own world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I try to describe this to people when I go back home, that you know, there's nothing like it. You know, it's its own world, but at the same time, if you're not connected to what's going on outside, you'll lose perspective here.
Right, but it's also not as isolated as people think.
Right.
It's very connected to the real world. So.
Because you hear about it very quickly on the phone. You more than most people, I would say. Stef, what would you know, you came here with a view and a thought of hopefully getting some experience. What did you hope to use the experience for, and would you recommend it to other people?
I would absolutely recommend the experience to other people. It's been a great experience for me just to, like Mike was saying, to be able to kind of see inside the policy process that I've learned a little bit about as an undergraduate. So it's been great to get some hands-on experience.
Very good.
I think that one of the major things that I was looking for in the internship was just kind of getting a better feel of the different aspects and issues inside Alaska, because being born and raised in Fairbanks, our issues there are vastly different from the issues in Craig. And so, but I had no idea what the issues were in Craig. So, you know, I don't know what the issues were in Barrow. And so I really just wanted to get a feel of the whole state. It's a huge state, huge economies, vastly different economies. And so I'm planning to work finish up my master's in public administration and then work somewhere in an agency or back on the Hill here in D.C. for at least a couple of years. But I wanted to work on Alaskan issues, and I really wanted to get a feel of that. And your office touches on everything in Alaska, which is quite an accomplishment, especially with the small staff and small but brilliant staff. So that's good.
Now look at that. He's making sure that you know, John Vazina, who manages takes note of that on the screen. But you know, it is interesting with Alaska. There is such a cross section of issues we deal with. There is not, you know, a lot of people think, well, because I'm on Veterans Affairs or Armed Services Committee or Commerce, that will be where our limitations are. But in reality, we cover the gamut. I mean, just healthcare. I sit on none of the committees, but we're fully engaged in healthcare in a variety of ways. Poor Bruce Scanlon is working day and night, and I always give him a hard time. I said, don't worry about it. Only 1/6 of the economy rests on your shoulders. You know, but in reality, it's an issue that really we sit on no committee that affiliates with the larger issue of healthcare, but because of the issue touches so many people, we're engaged into it. And Alaska is a great example. But that's, you know, it's hard to explain to people. Some offices are very focused, you know, on 2 or 3 issues. But it seems our office covers a gamut of issues because Alaskans, expect it. Now let me ask you, you know, we have a few minutes left, so let me ask you now you've been here, you've been in, you know, hopefully enjoying your time here, you'll recommend it to other folks hopefully, and we'll see some more interns in our next cycle. But what are the funnest things you've been able to do since you've been here? And I'll start with you.
I think one of the fun things, to me, it has to do with inside your office, and then it has to do with the office parties and stuff. The most recent
now, we're not
one,
supposed to tell about those, but we appreciate the time now. No,
no, it was in celebration of Alaska Day.
Alaska Day,
and
yeah.
it's we had it with our other congressional offices, as well as the office center in the area, around in the Russell building. And it was just really good to see everybody on a casual level. It was a lot of fun. Seeing you walk around with a plate of cookies. When you come out of the crowd doing that, I was just kind of shocked to see a senator. Other people, other interns that I'd been speaking with from the offices were shocked to see that as well. And so it was just, I think that was one of the most exciting, fun experiences.
Good. Steph?
I think one of the most exciting things for me has been just being able to work on Alaskan issues every day and really being able to be in touch with Alaska and what's going on back at home.
Very good. Mike?
Yeah, for me it's been a lot of, well, two things. One is everywhere I go I run into somebody important. So,
it is amazing,
yeah.
isn't it? I mean, every time you turn around, there's someone here that's making big policy.
Right, and so, you know, that's always just interesting. You know, I turn a corner and I see Senator Reid talking to reporters about just announcing the healthcare bill.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one thing. And the other thing is just the fact that I've been able to work on these issues. You know, that's really exciting for me, that I'm able to contribute in that way.
Great. Rachel?
One thing that's been fun is I feel like the job is just full of surprises. Like, you'll pick up the phone and it'll be, you know, and start taking down the person's comment, and then you realize that it was your, you know, 4th grade teacher or whatever. Or, you know, someone will send you an email saying, hey, can you go to this hearing for me? And it's completely fascinating, and you get to learn about this whole new thing. So yeah, it's just been every day there are different things, and that's been really fun.
And that's the one thing, it's hard because the hearings, you know, in some cases you only watch a little, you know, the 30 seconds on the news, but some of those hearings are very in-depth in what they're talking about, and the panels that come and testify are pretty impressive. And that's one thing about Washington D.C. here in the Capitol. You can pretty much figure it's like every university crammed together, because you get all these incredible people that come and talk about issues. But it's been great to have you guys part of it, and I want to wish you all a happy holidays as we move through the months here, the month of December, and thank you guys for your work in the office. I know our staff has fully enjoyed it. Let me again thank all of the viewers here. We are out of time of this segment of the Alaska Report. And again, I want to thank my interns for their great work they have done for Alaska for the past several months, and for joining me on the show with me today. Thanks for watching the Alaska Report. And as we head into the holiday season, I'd like to end by saying happy holidays to you and yours, and I wish you the best in the coming year.